What is up, you muffin munching muggles? Welcome to Fiction and Reality. From Deku's light speed pogo bouncing in My Hero Academia to Goku blasting Cell with his Telehamiha and Gojo's, well, we'll get into that ish later. We've all seen some of our favorite anime fights, and anime characters utilize speed blitzing to bring the conflict to a resolution in the blink of an eye and display the high intensity and flashy nature of the battle at hand. While speed blitzing is one of the more accepted and overlooked aspects of anime battles, overreliance can pose a risk to maintaining the integrity of the battle, character, and disrupt consistency and power scaling. So let's explore when speed blitzing in anime can disrupt the integrity of the fight and break laws of the world when used as a crutch to promptly bring forward resolution. Holy schmoly. Speed blitzing in anime fights can absolutely disrupt the integrity of the fight, but like with Bakugo and Shigaraki in My Hero Academia, it's not always a bad thing if the balance of powers is held between forces. So let's look at what happens when it works. We all know we don't want old Chappie over here rubbing his crusty crab hands all over us, because we might get turned into an ashy patashi or lose an arm or two. That was a joke. In my opinion, speed zoomies are best incorporated when they are fixed to the innate nature of the character themselves, which Bakugo's quirk requires. Speed blitzing adds flashiness and style to combat, but works best in moments of dire straits when tension is coming to a peak and something must be sacrificed to ascend to the next gear. For Bakugo, his advanced cluster technique allows him to exceed normal speed limits, rivaling that of Shigaraki's, at the cost of excessive strain on the body, which came in the form of nitroglycerin diffusely seeping from his pores. His ability or short bursts of awakened potential never upset the balance of powers between him and Shigaraki, and that's the key. The president of Bakugo, being outmatched by old crusty lips over here, maintained its consistency. Even when tapping into his advanced arsenal, it wasn't enough to holistically overcome the power gap. His heart ruptured as a result of quirk overuse. The boost in power didn't upset the consistency of the narrative, though I know the narrative consistency of watching Bakugo bleed out after his chest exploded was quite upsetting to some of you fandom members out there. If we're talking about a streamlined use of speed blitzing versus utilizing speed blitzing to add flair and flash, then speed blitzing is loyal to the architect of the characters that utilize it, the narrative that it complicates and refuses to overstep power gap boundaries simply for plot convenience. Bakugo versus Shigaraki encompasses the free spirit nature of speed blitzing by dancing in step with sacrifice and respect for the balance of powers, all while maintaining continuity throughout the narrative. Jujutsu no Kaisen, Fukatsu no Cold Cut. Speed blitzing in anime should be consistent with the rules of its world. Listen, Gojo and speed blitzing go hand in hand. When he speed blitzes, he's compressing the distance between objects with his ability. One to push, one to pull, and bend the realms of space and time or whatever, we get it. Speed blitzing in the world of Jujutsu no Kaisen seems mutually shared in my opinion, but inconsistent. What I can't accept is when speed blitzing disrupts the narrative for plot convenience, and other characters appear to move just as fast as characters with abilities supposedly primed for speed. In the Shibuya incident arc, when Gojo was surrounded by Mahito and Jogo, who were using the citizens as collateral to prevent Gojo from turning them into gem jelly like their homegirl Hanami, or like that like button you're about to hit, right? All the forces of the universe had their guns pointed at Gojo's head. Then suddenly the rules are uprooted and domain expansions can be opened and closed for 0.2 seconds. And for 0.2 seconds, he can now run around the room speed blitzing, splitting and chopping the heads off these curses faster than they can react, while somehow saving the human's press. This is never a staple in the narrative, and as far as we know, wasn't used again aside from Mahito, who drew inspiration from Gojo, which points toward it likely being nothing more than a crutch than anything. We saw Toji speed blitz Dagon and lay the nunchucks on him, and Jogo flying Rajan Blitz Nanami in the Zenins, characters we were just shown were highly skilled, getting their asses set on Fuego within a matter of seconds, and yet somehow not display this ability when he was fighting Gojo earlier in the first season of the series. Later, Sukuna appears to move at this lightning fast speed when fighting Jogo in the Shibuya incident arc, and now Jogo appears slow for the most part. If speed doesn't equal strength in JJK, why is it that every character that has the speed advantage and learns how to get faster cops the W? The primary risk with these inconsistencies is that the high-speed flash scenes begin appearing inconsistent with the power scale, and successive power-ups that incorporate this element cheapen the strategic nature of the battle. Speed blitzing should be implemented as a device that simply operates on the surface to make the combat flashier or be integrated with components of the narrative or framing of a character's abilities themselves to avoid conflict with power scaling. Splitting its elements between these spheres will absolutely cause confusion in establishing the hierarchy of strength and power within the story. Speed doesn't equal power, no, but when characters whose abilities are designed to flash before you in a blink of an eye are also mirroring characters who utilize instant transmission to assault and batter old grandmas and grill high-level sorcerers within a few mere seconds and decide outcomes, the disorientation of the power scale is laid naked and bare for the world to see. As speed blitzing is an understood general mechanic of the world, then characters within the world should follow the structured framework. If there are outliers like Gojo, then they should have their own realm of speed to work within, which he does. But that shouldn't disrupt the narrative for plot convenience like what happened in Shibuya, especially when devices of speed are magically implemented to help a character squirm out of a dire strait and rarely surface to be seen again. As I said, I'm not a fan of speed blitzing in anime when it betrays the integrity of the battle, the spirit of the fight. I always say speed blitzing is most proficient when it sticks like glue to the innate abilities of the character. Demon Slayer's Zenitsu is consistent in that. However, due to the scaling of his speed blitzing, Zenitsu never really seems like he's actually in danger, even when he is. I'm speaking to what we generally see, not isolating it to one single arc or movie. When he's awake, he does this annoying, overexpressive, screaming, performative anxiousness and excessive goon-maxing to Nezuko. Then he always falls asleep, taps into his unawakened subconscious, entering this sixth sense state where he can then zigzag zoomy through the air. I'm gonna be honest, any sense of there being a threat when Zenitsu enters his subconscious thunder-breathing state dissipates. In the Mugen Train arc, in a sequence of cuts, he cuts the head off Enmu with a few slashes, tremendously weakening him. In the forest, he goes to sleep, and within a few zoomy zigzags, the enemy before him has his head cut off. In Daki, a upper moon is put on air skates the moment Zenitsu enters this state and starts carving through the sky to chase her. He uses a move called godlike speed, for heaven's sake, to traverse the gap in power. Basically, he heat seeks Daki's head like a spray of missiles, then with Inosuke somehow catching up to his speed in this grandiose moment of convenience, they sever her head. Speed blitzing becomes a disruptor in maintaining the integrity of a fight if it doesn't respect the balance of powers between the user and the opponent. Zenitsu's breathing form breaks most of the power scaling rules within Demon Slayer when it's activated because it lacks any real drawbacks once he's entered the state, and gives him the upper hand without him having to methodically develop a strategy against his opponents to achieve victory when he activates this subconscious state. This isn't like Dragon Ball, for example, where high-speed movements are the typical baseline for all characters within the series. We're not talking Jiren punching you with his eyes and then Goku punching you 100 times with a single punch. Zenitsu is literally overcoming the disparity of power with his abilities and negating all strategy. The main focus is him getting into this state. Even Inosuke said, maybe you should stay in this state all the time after this man just eviscerated a cluster of ribbons doing his zigzag zoomies. After he's put out of commission by Daki, Zenitsu brushes aside some rubble, gets into his Raiden bag, then chuggas forward like Thomas the Tank Engine. This is an example of speed blitzing that ignores the balance of power within fights and thus distorts the integrity of the fight, but still stays true to the abilities of the character. And before someone goes to my comment section and says, but Infinity Castle, know that I am aware of his character growth arc, and I'm specifically talking about what we've seen generally and consistently throughout the series. I think more than anything, anime uses speed blitzing to anchor the aura of a character, establishing presence and power, which typically achieves the goal when failing to upset the narrative consistency or balance of powers. Who remember when Lucci pulled back up to the cookout with his pimp suit on, like he was about to have another friendly barbecue sesh with his boy Luffy? Now, for you youngins out there who don't know about Enies Lobby, let me tell you about Enies Lobby. Rob Lucci was a problem. He Swiss cheese Luffy and Zoro up at the same time, then threw them out of the building and told them to have fun on their flight back to Cancun. But let me get this straight. This is not the same Luffy coming to the cookout. This is Big Emperor Luffy with 3 extra gears, 1000 HP in a dream, and I don't think Lucci was told the full story. I don't think he was given the full file. Speed blitzing is an assertion of pure dominance in the world of anime, and a marker of the difference in power between the character and their opponent. The force they are reckoning with, a force that prompts them to wager whether or not they truly want to step up to the challenge and get this smoke. And when Luffy turns Gear 5 flying Rajins toward Lucci and puts the knuckle to the buckle, Lucci uncovered just how vast the power gap had grown between him and Luffy over the past few years. Even in Lucci's awakened state, he was ping-ponged about like a pinball, though trying his best to maintain speed with Luffy during their scuffle. It's here even the fans can scale just how far Luffy has come since first clashing with Rob Lucci. Speed blitzing is a marker for the transition of power from one side to another. If we think about the tournament of power, Jiren was beating the absolute hell out of Goku, walling on him like a punching bag. Then you get this moment of sort of opulence, where Goku unlocks his master state of Ultra Instinct, and in his great moment of emotional awakening, opposed against Jiren's ideals, he bursts toward him quicker than he could react and lays a haymaker on the bald of Boreal Valley. You can feel the power and dominion leaking from Goku with this new form by witnessing his heightened elusive abilities, and Seamless strikes that hammer a barrage of attacks quicker than the eye can see and quicker than Jiren can react. Speed-Blitzing is a projection of distinguishing resilience, strength, and endurance, all the same, but more than anything else, presence and power, an awakening of sorts where a character unlocks and taps into a version of themselves they didn't know was lying latent, or a variant of themselves they were raring to activate. Consistency in its implementation spares the integrity of the battle at hand and preserves the nature of the character whose abilities are attuned to its mechanics. When following the rules of its world, Speed-Blitzing makes for a flashier, narrative-driven approach to tackling combat within the world of anime. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about the use of Speed-Blitzing in anime. Overall, I tend to enjoy it. Do you believe that Speed-Blitzing could be used to overcompensate for power gaps, or combat fallacies, or plot convenience? Once again, I have a Discord link below where you can discuss these topics. Also, you can find my IG page, lvamps23, and other socials in the links below. If you want more analysis of your favorite characters or fictional worlds, go ahead and smash that like button, turn on that notification bell, and subscribe for more. The direction of progress is forward, and it's only up from here. With that, remember, if ever you're lost in a forest, your words strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there your mind will run free.